the most memorable was the fact that they were just everywhere at one point. Because it got slightly delayed, we had them for well over a year, so everywhere you turned there was oryx, so there was a lot of cleaning. And just being involved and working with those individuals which have been released out into the reserve, knowing that their offspring would be released into the wild. So on the day of the move, we came in and we were able to be involved with helping to either move the animals into the crates or shutting the slide on the crate. So that was probably one of my most memorable moments, is being able to actually shut the slide on the crate once the animal was safely in it, and then watching it be loaded and then eventually released out into the wild.
One of my nicest memories about the scimitar-horned oryx was when what is now Wild Explorers used to be full of young scimitars, all with their attitudes.
Quand tu passes la journée en observant ces magnifiques créatures, les oryx, les adax, les gazelles, c'est la partie quand tu fais la recherche toute la journée, parfois une journée on passe toute une journée et on ne trouve rien. La chose qui fait ce travail dur, c'est impressionnant. J'aime bien ça, que tu attends et puis soudainement il apparaît un animal et tu es très content de l'avoir trouvé.
So a standout memory I have working with the species for my short time is actually seeing them in the wild. So from my office I can actually see our herd of 5 oryx out in the main paddock, which is obviously really lovely. But actually seeing them out in Tunisia in groups of sort of 30 animals was really just amazing.
I have to admit, the moment that really affected me, that really made an impact on me, was waking up that first morning after we took the oryx over to Tromes National Park. We arrived late in the evening, we left them in their crates overnight and checked on them to make sure they were okay. And then first thing in the morning, we opened those crates and we released them into the acclimatisation pens. And that was a wonderful moment. But it was really the next morning of waking up super early, just as dawn was breaking over the shot, and walking over to see the oryx, and they were huddled there in their little patches of sunlight, trying to keep warm. And you realise that you've made a difference, that the oryx are back in Tromes National Park, and that it's happened, that it's been done. After 5 years of planning, it's that moment of seeing it come to fruition. And then earlier this year, in May, Sophie and I were in Tromes National Park with Marie, our field biologist in Tunisia. And sitting there in the car, I had a moment, and everyone was sort of laughing at me very gently, because I looked out and I saw those scimitar-horned oryx, and it's 18 years and several generations on, and those oryx are now back in the wild, and that was a real moment for me.
I think a standout for me would have to be in my early days of zookeeping. We actually got to hand raise one of the females that we have here, and the best thing about it was that she integrated back into the herd perfectly, and then she went on to breed and to mother her calves like a normal healthy oryx.
So a standout memory would be when we were in preparation to help re-release them into the wild. We had oryx all over the park in sort of 4 or 5 different enclosures. They came to us from all across Europe, so having oryx all around the zoo, we were able to talk about the conservation efforts that we were trying to work with, and just being part of that whole process was really quite exciting. When the mums have their babies, they get very protective of the calves, and we have to try and health check the calves. We try and give them a mic chip and an ear tag just for some identifying features. Mums don't always know that we're trying our best to make sure that their calf is healthy, so they can get quite protective. Gets a lot of adrenaline going through your system, but it's also quite fun.
I think first time when I encountered a calf of oryx, it was a surprise for me. I didn't see it, and suddenly there was the calf looking at me, and I immediately took pictures of him. I stopped working on the group and I just took pictures of this calf. It was the first time seeing the oryx calf.
One of my standout moments for me in my zoo career was based around the scimitar-horned oryx, where looking after them in the captivity, breeding them in captivity, and then releasing them back to the wilds and taking that full circle really was a pinnacle in my career.
أول حاجة نتذكرها أول مرة نشوف كعب أوريكس الوالدة. حاجة عجبتني فيه كيفاش يخمر صغير وبالعشر أيام ب 15 يوم لم نشوف حتى الذيب ما نجمش. اللهم كان في صدفة. صعوبات
A standard memory from working with scimitar-horned oryx was witnessing those early morning in the field when small groups of oryx born and raised in natural condition now emerge from valley and wadis to join larger herds on the open steppe. Seeing substantial group of oryx with shimmering salt lake in the background felt like stepping back in time, back in that area when they roam in the Sahara in great numbers. It's always incredibly moving experience and a powerful symbol of hope for the species recovery.
I've only been managing populations since 2022, but obviously the downlisting on the IUCN Red List from extinct in the wild to endangered is a huge thing. Success of the scimitar-horned oryx conservation shows that we should never give up. The last sighting in the wild was in Chad and dates from 1988, and the species was declared extinct in the wild in 2000. And now, almost 40 years after that last sighting, the species is back in Chad, roaming free in decently good numbers. So obviously, there was and is a lot of money involved in this achievement, but it would not have been possible without international cooperation, as European, American and Middle Eastern collections all work together, or without the cooperation between conservationists working in situ and ex situ.
I'm obviously very proud of the work that Marwell has done and the team here at Marwell has done, and it's a team effort across the entire organisation. Obviously, sort of those people working in our sort of commercial side who are sort of generating funding, which is then being put into the efforts that we undertake in the field for conservation. But the huge efforts on our sort of animal care teams and our veterinary teams, who have sort of now got such a refined understanding of how to help these animals in captivity and ensure that they can thrive and then be suitable for reintroduction. This is one of the sort of rare conservation success stories where we have identified a species that has been driven to extinction in the wild, and through the efforts of zoos particularly, like frankly no other organisation could do, we've combined our efforts to be able to then restore this species back from whence it came. And the change in status from extinct in the wild, to use the sort of IUCN's Red List criteria, to now being endangered, obviously it highlights that the threats have not disappeared, and we have to remain ever watchful to ensure that the species can survive and does form stable and sustainable populations. But nevertheless, to go from extinction to back into the wild is something that we can celebrate, but obviously not too much that we take our foot off the gas and relax too much. There's still a lot of work to be done, and this is one species, and there are so many other species that are facing urgent threats that require our attention.